It's the morning star drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the morning star drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Friday, February 18th. It's the Resurrection Day Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this fabulous Friday? We've got some coronavirus updates, current news from around the world, the word study on the Wednesday message, and let's testify with Tuli Ashton from Australia. All right, everyone, how are you doing today? It is Resurrection Day. Hope you guys really enjoyed the pre-dawn message too. It's a great time for us to reflect, a great time for us to think about the things that we're able to resurrect. Yes, it is Friday, so it's kind of cool because Friday is like the death of the work week and life to the weekend where we can relax and receive the new word. So I hope that everyone is looking forward to resurrecting after this Friday work day and making a time of relaxation and comfort for the weekend. And, I want to remind everyone, let's get things here kicked off on the Morning Star Drive, but let's build the community more than anything else. We need a community for the English-speaking members around the world, and I hope that all of us here can continue on both SoundCloud and YouTube. Comment, like the comments, comment on comments, like the comment on comments, and the comment on comments, right? Or whatever it is. But let's make sure we can build a platform for all of us to talk, just like the rest of the world has in their own communities, all right? So it's Resurrection Day, right? And it's kind of interesting because we, especially in prophets, we talk about resurrection a lot. Like there's so many times he's like, we got to resurrect. And then 3 months later, we got to resurrect. And then we got to resurrect. And of course we're like, sometimes we get tired of the message of resurrection because it's like, well, how much do I need to resurrect, right? Like, what else do I like? And sometimes we end up feeling guilty or bad that we didn't resurrect in a certain area. And it's kind of like, oh, man, Resurrection Day sometimes can be a little bit, what's that word? It can be depressing a bit or guilty. Like you feel guilty because you didn't, I didn't really resurrect in this area or that area, right? So, of course, the biggest thing is it's the freeing. That's the day that Sunseem was freed, right? From prison. So there's number one. That's a huge thing. We can actually see him in the body. So that's a huge resurrection for us to be able to see him in the body. So the great celebration after the 10 years, right? But I think the one thing that we do need to understand is, of course, there's a gradual history, means resurrection does take time. However, the second thing we need to understand is we're living in an eternal history, which means that resurrection will never stop. Like the message of resurrection will never end. Even after, even until we die, there's no ending to resurrection. And that's one of the things I do think we need to kind of step up in our minds that, hey, remember, resurrection is not a one shot, you're resurrected and you're done. Resurrection is an all life thing. It's going to happen forever, where we continually get better and better. We continually resurrect more and more. So if we have that in our hearts and our minds that it's going to be forever, it's all about what's next. What level do I raise? When it comes to my prayer, how can I resurrect my prayer? It doesn't mean you don't have prayer. It just means your prayer can be better. How am I going to raise that level? Right? Even in the world, right? In the world, resurrection is always happening. Like, say, hey, I got this money. What do I do with this money? I got to spend this money. Or how do I make more money? And even when you make money, you still got to spend it. So in the end, you still got to make more money, right? So the more and more you think about it, the more you realize, oh, wait a second, what's going on here? And we realize in our hearts and our minds that this is something that we really, really have to think about, is it is never-ending resurrection, and we're just trying to reach new levels. And what can I do to do it even better? Right? And I would say that I found something really, really cool and interesting that I was listening to because I was just starting to look into some cryptocurrencies and stuff and looking at some YouTubers. And I found this one YouTuber guy, and this guy was a cashier clerk making $30,000, maybe $35,000 a year around there. And, he's just a cashier at a store. And then he decided to change. And now he's making about $30,000 a month. Right? So he's doing cryptocurrencies and all these other side jobs and stuff like that too. So I was listening to one of his YouTube videos, and it was exactly what Sunseem says. right? And this is kind of like what Sunstein was talking about, the key to success, right? All successful people will understand this more than anything else. And he said that you need to take extreme ownership of your life. And I was like, wow, okay. Like, this person's not even this history, but he realized something so deeply about himself. And he says, if you take extreme ownership, it means that everything is because of you. So never blame other people, but you have to be the one that takes the blame for everything. Don't blame the economy. Don't blame the stock market. Don't blame this and don't blame that. And he said that, yeah, he went through so much stuff from getting to $30,000 a year to $30,000 a month. And he said the one thing that he learned while reading tons of books of successful people, he says the one thing he realized is everyone took ownership. It was never like, oh, it's because of them, it's because of this, and it's because of that. He said it's because you can't do anything about it. If you talk about things that you are not in control of, then what can you do? Absolutely nothing. But he says even in a relationship, you don't blame the other person. You could have made it better. And it just really reminded me of what Sunstein says all the time. And in the end, we have to understand is even resurrection too, it's about us, right? It really is. Because if you take a message like a couple weeks ago, what did Sunstein say? He basically said that God is going to do what he does 100%. The only problem is human beings, which means that it is about extreme ownership. Do you own your life? And do you own up for every bad thing that you did? Are you going to make up for it or not, right? And I think that's something that we have to realize when it comes to us resurrecting each and every day too, right? One thing that so that's something that I was really thinking about when it comes to Resurrection Day, of taking ownership, extreme ownership, right? But the second thing, I was really, really happy because the letter came down to all the head leaders and assistant leaders from Sunstein, right? And it's about, guess what it's about, guys? It's about the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. This is crazy because this shows how important the world news is, what God is doing, what we need to really pray about. Right? Because the report came in from Russia to Sunstein about this invasion of the Ukraine. So Sunstein's now asking all the head leaders and assistant leaders to pray for the Ukraine and Russia, but pray for the Ukraine and Russia knowing the situation. And this is why I was like, this is why it's so important for us to know the world news. And I'm really happy that we are getting it here on the Morning Star Drive World News. And it's out there. All this is big news in the world. But if we don't understand or know these things, what can we pray about? How do we know? Where even Sunstein is like praying for the situation too. On the 16th, right? The 16th, what happened was that was the scheduled date of the invasion of Ukraine. But the brakes were put on right at the brink of the Ukraine crisis, right? Where Russia begins to start withdrawing some troops. And we even talked about that several days ago. They withdrew troops from the Ukrainian border to continue dialogue with the West. And that's a huge hallelujah from all the prayers that have been done there. And if you understand that even just we talked all about this on our podcast, World News, just before the announcement of the Russian military's withdrawing troops, the crisis in the Ukraine, this war was at its peak, and Western leaders super weary that war could break out at any time, and they can't trust the Russia's announcement of the return of its troops, right? So Sunstein was asking all the leaders to pray, and all of us can pray here on the Morning Star Drive too. Create a world of peace. This is the prayer that we want to do, to create a world of peace without war for Russia and Ukraine, where the possibility of military conflict is still high. We need to pray for a world of peace, right? So Sunstein was asking everyone to please pray earnestly together with the Lord. So this for me was just so amazing for me, because I'm like, we're going to talk about the Ukraine even more today in the world news. But like Sunstein said, don't just pray about it and say, oh God, there's something happening. No, you got to know about it. So that's why I'm really, really happy that that just this proves that how important this world news is for us to understand. Okay, so that is something I'm super happy and ecstatic about. All right, and so that's something, everyone. Don't skip the world news. That's where our prayer is going to come out of what's happening in the world. Also, did you guys check out the video last night on Espresso with Sky? Was Adam the first human being? I think this is a perfect introduction for anyone. It's a perfect introduction for newcomers to figure out, oh, is this right or is this wrong? Or, to get them peeked into the Bible itself. So go ahead, check it out. Learn how to explain it and give it to your newcomers so they can see it too as something really interesting. Also, this Sunday edition, remember, it was Aaron Biek from Hawaii, blessed family, 3 kids, just adorable, beautiful children. And I hope that you're looking forward to another awesome Sunday edition next week as we go to Canada in my hometown over here in Vancouver. We're going to meet Karen Smith, all right? So I hope you guys really enjoyed these Sunday edition interviews and just getting to meet each other in an intimate way, seeing what different members have gone through and how much grace God has put in their lives for them to come. It's perfect for this week's message also. We know that Patreon, those of you guys on Patreon, super thankful for all you guys there. New videos coming out every single week, all right? So let's get into today's featured artist of the day on this very relaxing Friday. Who are we going to listen to today? Today's featured artist is Kuma-chan from Japan with Open My Eyes. Then after that, we have Bok from PMA in Korea with True Story, and that's featuring PGY. And last but not least, we have Renee Lai from Taiwan with How Far I'll Go from the Moana soundtrack, and that is in Chinese. All right? So I hope that all of us here, as we are praying and as we are like moving and running for this history, let's make sure that we keep all these member artists in our prayers.
Open the eyes, open the door, open my heart, 見どころ探して Open the eyes, open the door, open my heart, 未来照らす my way 揺れないで go 揺れないで go どんなかな迫害が来ても動じない強い信仰を持って立ち向かおうファミリーで go ファミリーで go 全ての人を受け入れられる家族のような温かさを持ってゆこう主の御心ファーストでゆこういつも主の心情と共に主の言葉を最優先にして動き出そう伝えよう御言葉を実践し挑戦してナンバーワンを目指してゆこう全ての個性才能を生かし挑戦しよう主役になろう伝えたい I'm happy, I'm happy 新しく You are shining, you are shining 伝えたい I'm happy, I'm happy 新しく You are shining, you are shining オープンでこうオープンでこう地域や社会の目線に立ち発展に積極的に貢献しよう近づいてこう近づいてこう全ての世代と距離を近く親しく接したならは僕をなそう縛られてる心を捨ててこう新しい取り組みをしよう主の言葉で心を燃やして動き出そうどんどんチャレンジしよう家族のような温かさで愛に満ちた教会しよう CGM オープンの先駆者として強みを生かし大胆になろう伝えたい I'm happy, I'm happy 新しく You are shining, you are shining 伝えたい I'm happy, I'm happy 新しく You are shining, you are shining 主の御言葉に出会い全て与えられた何もない私だったけど育ててくれたその愛をいつまでも忘れずにいようもらったものすべて捧げ御心がそう御言葉を実践し挑戦してナンバーワンを目指してゆこう全ての個性才能を生かし挑戦しよう主役になろう Open the eyes, open the door, open my heart 見どころ探して Open the eyes, open the door, open my heart 未来照らす my way
반에서 잘 나갔어 나중 학교 다닐 때 늘 앞에 나서는 게 매일 반복됐던 하루날 선배 앞에 선 고개 숙여 인사해 수업했던 땐 고개 푹 숙여 시간 때워 공부 따윈 잘해봤자 형과 비교되지 누구 동생이란 소린 귀에 박혔네 두개골을 강타해 그게 싫어 계속 다른 나로 바뀌었네 선배들과 알게 돼 강요당한 불량 서클 그러면서 산에 불려 친구들과 구타당해왔어 정말 엄마한테 말 못해 내 맘 한켠 묻혀있던 주께 편지 써보니 주님께 편지 보낸 이후 주민신고 받고 경찰 출동해 선배 잡았고 어둠 속 그곳에서 꺼내준 내 주께 감사해 그 삶을 배워가네 yeah. 아침에 난 입학한 고등학교 다니며 자꾸 튀어나온 내 버릇 다스려간 나의 꿈은 나같이 방황하던 모든 사람들이 주를 만난 삶의 변화 이루어 기뻐하는 것 yeah. 하루 삶을 살며 뜻해온 대로 시간 또 깨어 미련 없이 실컷 탔어 오늘도 주 따라 평소 하던 것보다 더 힘내시련 닥쳐와도 난 지난 날 사연으로 결국엔 이겨가 지금은 질 것 같아도 보고 놀라지 결과 사람들은 말해 지금을 즐기자고 꼭 해결할 문제는 동전 마냥 던져놓고 누구든 해결해야 할 영 문제가 있어 그 문제 풀지 못하면 남는 건 아무것도 없어 함께 인생 100년 영에 대해 배우고 나의 육도 감독해 생각만 앞세우다 끝나버릴 뻔했어 세상 최고 재벌이라도 때는 못 나가 참 안타까운 일이지만 방도는 있어 신의 생각대로 사는 것 묵은 양식은 희마리가 없지만 난 새 양식 먹으니 바로 힘이 나 이제 나 놓치지 않아 내 인생 한때뿐 더 많이 배우고 또 가르쳐 줄래 난 생각나 아파했던 날 주님 떠올라 같이 울고 있던 날 난 내게 말해 나 같은 사람 지켜주심에 참 감사하다고 난 생각나 아파했던 날 주님 떠올라 같이 울고 있던 날 난 내게 말해 나 같은 사람 지켜주심에 참 감사하다고 난 생각나 아파했던 날 주님 떠올라 같이 울고 있던 날 또 내게 말해 나 같은 사람 지켜주심에 참 감사하다고 난 생각나 아파했던 날 주님 떠올라 같이 울고 있던 날 오늘도 말해 나 같은 사람 같이 알려주심에 참 감사하다고
我心中有一个无尽的海洋，没有尽头的地方，那里永远有阳光。不要完成别人给的梦想，我有自己专属脸庞，从我中学会成长。每一个转弯，每一个路段，每一次希望，每一次失望，不管多困难，有什么地方是我不能闯。我听见地平线那一边呼唤我，不用知道终点多远，乘着风，迎着浪，有着帆，不是疯狂，因为信仰，人生是一场考验坚强的流浪。虽然留在原地是份安全，天堂里面没有悲伤，但我会失去幻想。虽然能和别人一模一样，会有相同的赞赏，但我有定制的主张。每一个转弯， 次希望，每一次失望，不管多困难，有什么地方是我不能触？我听见地平线的一边呼唤我，不用知道终点多远，乘着风迎着浪，勇的帆不是疯狂，因为信仰越过了黑夜会遇见梦想。我听见地平线那一边呼唤我，不用知道终点多远，乘着风迎着浪，勇的帆不是疯狂，因为信仰终点在我。
And there you go. That is Renee live from Taiwan with How Far I'll Go from the Moana soundtrack. Before that was Polk from the Paper Music Associates in Korea with True Story featuring PGY. And of course, that is Kuma-chan from Japan, the featured artist of the day with Open My Eyes. All right. So let's get into the world news. And like we heard at the very beginning, how important the world news, you got to listen to it. You know, it might not be every single thing that's going to be in the prayer or that something you're going to recognize, but these big world things, as long as we're listening to more and more of them, we see how they develop, we're going to understand, oh my gosh, I really should be praying about this. And now we see that it is reality, as Sun seems asking all the head leaders and assistant leaders to pray for the Russia-Ukraine situation, all right? So let's start off with the coronavirus updates for today. And so far in the world, until since the beginning, there have been 419.5 million cases with over 5.87 million deaths, and that's a 1.4% mortality rate. Top 5 countries going by daily death rates. The U.S. on top once again with 2,802 deaths and 115,000 cases in a 24-hour span. Brazil in second with 1,046 deaths and 147,000 cases. Russia, 748 deaths in 179,000 cases. Mexico jumps to fourth with 643 deaths in 21,000 cases. And then India, 538 deaths and 30,000 cases. Over here in North America, both the U.S. and Mexico are in the top 5. So we just have Canada remaining with 112 deaths and 8,100 cases. All right, so let's get into the current news going around the world. Top 3 news, we're going to start off with the big one, which is Ukraine-Russia tensions. And I hope that as we learn more about this, as Sunseem said, pray about the Ukraine and Russia knowing the situation, okay? So now the U.S. says Russia is looking for an excuse to invade. Russia is preparing to fabricate a reason to invade the Ukraine, the U.S. says, warning that an attack could happen in the coming days. President Joe Biden said military action could begin imminently on Thursday, but stressed that a diplomatic solution was still possible. His top foreign policy official later listed several ways Moscow could stage justification for an attack. Russia said the claims were baseless and accused the U.S. of stoking tensions, and it has repeatedly denied any plan to invade its eastern neighbor. Now, Moscow insists it's moving troops away from the Ukrainian border, but that claim has been fiercely contested by Western powers. And of course, they have reason to believe they are engaged in a false flag operation to have an excuse to go in, and that's what Mr. Biden told reporters outside the White House. A false flag, what is that? It's a fabricated attack a country stages against its own interests in order to justify a retaliation. So it's like they hire people who pretend to be from the Ukraine to attack the Russians, right? And then that gives them a reason to go in. Like that's what a false flag attack is. And the U.S. has for weeks been saying that such a misdirection is part of Russia's plans. The U.S. Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, later told the United Nations Security Council that Russia was readying such a move. And he said it wasn't clear what form a pretext for an attack could take, but that possibilities include a fabricated so-called terrorist bombing inside Russia, the invented discovery of a mass grave, a staged drone strike against civilians, or a fake or even a real attack using chemical weapons. So in the aftermath of such an incident, Mr. Blinken said Russia's government would likely theatrically convene an emergency meeting about protecting ethnic Russians in Ukraine, and Russian missiles and bombs would begin striking Ukrainian targets alongside cyber attacks. Right, so the U.S. hasn't provided evidence for the allegation, and Blinken acknowledged that some people may question the claims, but he said, "Let me be clear, I am here today not to start a war, but to prevent one." Right, the concerns were echoed by other Western leaders. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg warned of a pretext for an armed attack, while UK Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and Prime Minister Boris Johnson alleged that a false flag operation was being planned. So the spiking tensions on Thursday came after an exchange of fire between Ukrainian forces and Russia-backed rebels in the country's east, and such breaks in the years-long ceasefire are not uncommon, but each side blamed the other for Thursday's violence. Ukrainian officials accused Russia-backed separatists of striking a nursery in the town of this town I can't even pronounce it. It's like Stanitsia Luhanska. That's what it says, I think. And smashing through a wall into a children's music room. 3 adults, but no children were injured. So Russia-backed rebels, meanwhile, said Ukrainian forces had shelled a number of locations under rebel control and accused them of escalating the conflict. And there are also competing claims about the buildup of troops along Ukraine's border. Russia has said that following the completion of military exercises, some of its troops are now returning to their bases, and it has published video purporting to show tanks boarding trains as evidence. But U.S. and other Western officials said thousands more troops are arriving and insist there is no evidence of any significant withdrawal, and they say that claim is backed up not only by intelligence, but widely available satellite photographs. So images taken by U.S.-based commercial firm Maxar Technologies this week show that Ukraine remains surrounded on 3 sides, but the images do not definitely prove that Russia is about to invade. But Russia denies all such accusations by Ukraine and Western leaders. So on Thursday, it sent a formal response to U.S. proposals for negotiation in the crisis, which both offered a potential route to diplomacy and threatened further action. In the document, Russia said it was open to discussions about inspections of missile sites on both sides, but said the U.S. had failed to address its main security concerns about the expansion of NATO near its border. Now, the possibility that Ukraine could one day join the military alliance is a key part of the ongoing crisis, and Russia fiercely opposes such a move, but the U.S. and NATO have not ruled it out. And Russia said that if that issue was not dealt with, military technical means would be deployed in response, though it remains unclear what that could amount to. And on the same day, it expelled the U.S. deputy ambassador to Moscow, and the U.S. said the move was unprovoked and described it as a diplomatic escalation. So this is some more information that we can look at so that we can pray about this properly. Who has the right answer? And the answer is we don't know. The U.S. is the U.S. and the Western leaders making it up? It's very possible. It is, right? Could the Russians be absolutely innocent in this? Absolutely, they could, right? It's not about us judging who is right or what is wrong. It is us knowing the situation, what is happening, but seeing that it's escalating, and we need to really, really pray for this. Okay, so that's the first news. Second news, we're going to go into Brazil, in a place called Petrópolis, and there are deadly landslides that wreak havoc in this Brazilian city. More than 100 people have died in landslides and flash flooding in the Brazilian city of Petrópolis, officials say. The city, which is located in the mountains north of Rio de Janeiro, was hit by torrential rainfall. Houses in hillside neighborhoods destroyed, cars swept away as floodwaters raced through the city's streets. Search and rescue teams are combing the mud for survivors. Brazil's National Civil Defense said that 24 people had been rescued alive by Wednesday night local time. Videos shared on social media showed extensive damage and vehicles floating in the streets, and they said that the situation is almost like war. Cars hanging from poles, cars overturned, mud, water. Rio de Janeiro Governor Claudio Castro told journalists. With more than 30 people reported missing, he said that the search and rescue efforts would continue nonstop. Now, Petrópolis is a popular tourist destination in the hills above Rio de Janeiro, which used to be the summer getaway for Brazil's monarchs in the 19th century. But after a month's worth of rain fell on the city in just 3 hours, this is the heaviest rainfall since 1932, according to Governor Castro, and much of its regal charm lay in ruins with homes and shops destroyed by the flooding. So in one of the worst hit neighborhoods, up to 80 houses were hit by landslides, and the water came fast with great force, and the loss was 100%. And Basically, you're looking at a lot of people losing their livelihood. So around 300 people are being housed in schools and shelters, and charities are calling for donations of mattresses, food, clothing, and face masks. So it's the latest in a series of heavy rains to hit Brazil in the past 3 months, which scientists say are being made worse by climate change. Petropolis and the surrounding region were previously hit by severe storms in January 2011, when more than 900 people died in flooding and landslides. So it's another thing to pray about for those who are suffering there in Brazil. Last but not least, we have another storm warning. This is in the UK. There's a rare red weather warning issued for parts of the UK. A rare red weather warning, the highest level, has been issued for parts of southwest England and South Wales on Friday, meaning there's a danger to life from flying debris. The Met Office warned Storm Eunice could bring gusts of winds up to 90 miles per hour. Now, what is that in kilometers? It's about 160 kilometers is 100 miles. So it's going to be probably around 135 kilometers an hour, right? So it's going to cause significant damage and destruction. Damage to homes, canceled trains, and power cuts are also likely, and many schools are closing as a precaution. The red warning is in place from 7 a.m. Local time until 12 on Friday, and it means millions of people living near the coastline of Devon, Cornwall, Somerset, as well as the south coast of Wales are being urged to stay at home during the storm. A lower amber warning for wind remains in place for the rest of Wales and most of England as far north as Manchester from about 5 a.m. until 9 p.m. on Friday. All train services in Wales have been suspended on Friday, while rail companies are urging other customers not to travel due to expected disruption. Almost all Welsh councils, as well as Somerset County Council, said their schools would close on Friday. More than 100 schools across Wales, right? So the government held an emergency COBRA meeting to discuss the response to the incoming storm, and Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the army was on standby to support those affected. And it comes just after Storm Dudley caused widespread travel disruption and power cuts on Wednesday. So there are concerns that Storm Eunice's strong winds and a possible storm surge could combine with high spring tides to bring coastal flooding to the west, southwest, and the south coast of England. So there's 9 severe flood warnings, meaning there's a danger to life, and it's something that we really need to pray about also, especially for those in the UK. Thank God it's not going to be close to our churches, but still there are lives at stake and people that are going to be suffering from these winds of like 135 kilometers an hour. So if it's a red warning zone, basically it's enough for roofs to be blown off, power lines to be brought down, while trees are likely to be uprooted. And that's the red warning, right? So thank God that the winds are expected to ease from the west during the late morning, but it will remain unsettled over the weekend with more rain and strong winds. So there's another thing that we can pray about with this world news about this happening over there in the UK. All right, so let's get into some sporting news. And of course, it's basically just the Olympic tracker. Some great news today. Number one is in the Olympics, the medal track. Well, we'll start off with the medal tracker. Norway's in first with 14 gold medals, Germany with 10, the US with 8, and Sweden with 7. So let's take a look at some of the results that have happened just the other day. In women's alpine combined, it's the Swiss that dominate and take both gold and silver. In curling, I'm very disappointed in this one. In the curling semifinals, Sweden beats Canada 5-3, and Great Britain beats the US 8-4. Oh, yeah. So they are out, but they will be going for a bronze medal. Canada will be playing the US for the bronze medal. In figure skating, this is just good news and sad news at the same time. In women's figure skating, both Russians took, they were supposed to sweep, but Russians took the gold and silver, and the bronze went to Japan. But the big controversy is Kamila Valieva, 15 years old. She failed a drug test and she's still competing. And it's so disheartening. It's heartbreaking. She fell twice. Can you imagine all the pressure, like going through that stress of this, this drug testing and stuff? And she's only 15. She's a child, which means the mistake is not hers. The mistake lies with the adults that are in charge of her. And she was a heavy favorite to win, but she fell twice in her program. She was a heavy favorite, and she actually ended up in 4th. She's just crying. It was just heartbreaking to see. And no one can blame her because she doesn't make the decision at all. She doesn't make the decision. So the heartbreak goes to, what the IOC and the Russian Skating Association. Ugh. Yeah, it's just heartbreaking just to see that happen in that situation. In women's sky cross big air, we have Sweden takes first, Canada and second, Germany with the bronze. Women's 1,000-meter speed skating, Japan's Miho Tagagi wins that. Team large hill cross country, Norway takes first, Germany with the silver, and Japan with the bronze. And of course, the most important one is women's ice hockey finals. Canada versus the U.S. And yes, Canada beats the U.S. 3-2. Great game. I watched it with my parents. It was really fun to watch. So congratulations to Canada women's ice hockey team getting the gold medal. Yes. All right. So that is sporting news, the Olympic news, plus world news, and of course, coronavirus updates for today, which means it's getting into our golden time. It is the time for praise and worship. So I hope that you guys will really enjoy this. We'll start off with we have fulfilled the purpose of love. Then we're going to get really deep. And we're going to start off with my confession to the Lord. And then whenever, wherever, so that all of us can just praise, whether we're driving, running, or whatever it is. So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
I'm happy if you're happy. The Trinity are happy too. That is all that matters. Since we found the path of life, now we can say time can keep flowing away. I'm on the way to heaven. We have fulfilled God's purpose of eternal love. In that golden heaven above, from the sunrise to the sunset, even as the moon begins to rise, even as the stars light up the night, we should go on serving God, serving the Holy Spirit. You and I should spend our days like this. I'm on the way to heaven. We have fulfilled God's purpose of eternal love. In that golden heaven above, from the sunrise to the sunset, even as the moon begins to rise, even as the stars light up the night, we should go on serving God, serving the Holy Spirit. You and I should spend our days like this. Here in this world of love, we live first met you, my Lord, how I made up my mind, how I decided I would learn from you only, focusing on this word alone. I have seen how you really live your life. I have seen for myself. Now I will not be shaken, whatever comes. I have seen you, Lord, so how could I share? I will serve you, Lord, you who are the King of 10,000 kings. And I'll love you, Lord, forever as my bridegroom. I'll love you more. You've become my everything. I've given all my life to you. Please use me according to your way. When I saw the Almighty shine through you, I got down on my knees. Surely the Trinity are working through you. I confess to you through these burning tears. I will serve you, Lord, you are the King of 10,000 kings. And I'll love you, Lord, forever as my bridegroom. I'll love you more. You've become my everything. I've given all my life to you. Please use me according to your will. Everything, the work you've done, the word you breathe, I can testify that all these things are true. I preach with the spirit of truth. I will serve you, Lord, you who are the King of 10,000 kings. And I'll love you, Lord, forever as my bridegroom. I'll love you more. You've become my everything. I've given all my life to you. Please use me according to your will. I will serve you, Lord, you who close or open my eyes, I can't seem to get him off my mind. Oh, come to me, I heard him call. The Lord so great pleaded with me so small, and suddenly he stood by my side. With the Lord here by my side, worries of the world are gone. Thoughts of you, my Lord, rush into my mind. Whenever and wherever, it's only you I think about. When I close my eyes or open my eyes, you're the only one on my mind. Can't seem to get you off my mind. Oh, come to me, I heard him call. The Lord so great pleaded with me so small, and suddenly he stood by my side. With the Lord here by my side, worries of the world are gone. Thoughts of you, my Lord, rush into my mind. Whenever and wherever, it's only you I think about. When I close my eyes or open my eyes, you're the only one on my mind. Can't seem to get you off my mind. Thoughts of you, my Lord, rush into my mind. Whenever and wherever, it's only you I think about. When I close my eyes or open my eyes, you're the only one on my mind. Can't seem to get you off my mind. Thoughts of you, my Lord, rush into my mind. Whenever and wherever, it's only you I think about. When I close my eyes or open my eyes, you're the only one on my mind. Can't seem to get you off my mind. Thoughts of you, my Lord, rush into my mind. Whenever and wherever, it's only you I think about. When I close my eyes or open my eyes, you're the only one on my mind. Can't seem to get you off my mind.
And there it is, the time of praise and worship. That was Whenever, Wherever. Before that, My Confession to the Lord, and of course, We Have Fulfilled the Purpose of love. All right. So now that we have our hearts in the right place, let's get into today's word study. And of course, today's word study is on the Wednesday message, as usually we do on every single Fridays. Let's start off with, we know the title is Realize the Grace of the Holy Trinity that saved you from death and love them as you live. And it's a great message to remind us and think about all the times that God has saved us. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, when I was listening to this message, the more and more I listened, the more I was remembering more like the other times, just being reminded by all the times, just by being reminded by the story Sunsteam had, it totally reminds like, oh my gosh, I was in that same situation kind of thing too. A lot of times people might think that they don't have life or death, but we just need to really think about it more deeply. Sunsteam said every person has been saved by God from death. Every person. So we can't say we never were. Okay. So let's get into the Wednesday message. And as we've been thinking about this all week. We've listened to it on the podcast, other people's stories. And when we hear about like the Holy Trinity and like these miracles of how they saved us, it really does remind us of what happens to us too. And we have to understand is when God blesses us with saving our lives, we are blessed when we realize, right? But how does God bless someone if they don't even care? Like, imagine you put your life on the line to save someone else. They don't even blink. So why would God bless someone like that? We have to really understand how much God is saving us. So we need to think about those times and then repay. How do we pay? Repay with love. Love for love, right? God bless those that realize this grace that we have received, and He'll continue to help us in all these different types of difficulties and death, right? So let's take a look at some of these stories. Or just incredible stories. Incredible. So we start off with the 27th experience. So he explained 26 already. We're on number 27. So I'm just like, wow, like how much, when Sunsteam the message comes out, he is relentless in figuring out all the things God is saying. And he talks about when he was 6 years old, playing with a 4-year-old. And of course, there was like artillery shells from the U.S. firing at the enemies, and it landed 10 meters from them. No one was hit by a single piece of shrapnel, even though it was him and his 4-year-old friend, even though the 4-year-old friend was thrown from the blast, right? And his brother had like a little piece of shrapnel that went into his leg. But it is crazy because he brought up something that I never thought about. Is like, oh my gosh, shrapnel. But he says, but think about his eardrums didn't burst. And I was like, wow, that's so true. Like something that loud, that lands so close, and he, even his eardrums don't burst. So that's another amazing thing also. And he was just talking about like the size of the pond from that bomb. It made this huge crater in the ground. And he said it was like the size of 10 ponds. And like even boulders were split nearby. But how is it that people who were that close, 10 meters, like their stomachs didn't burst or explode? And you realize, wow, God really saved, more than anything else, right? The 20th story was like, I've heard this, we've all heard this one before, but this one's mind-boggling because who crosses a stream to go to church? Isn't that mind-boggling to you that you would even go? If there's a river between me and the church, I am not crossing the river, if I'm going to be honest, right? Like we are so blessed in like the places that we live. We don't have to cross a stream. I was like, you crossed a stream and it was like up to your waist. And I'm like, why would you even go in? Like I would even consider twice if it was even up to my knees. I'd be like, maybe it's not time to go to pre-dawn, right? And that's just the difference of his love. The water came up to his waist. The current was almost so strong he had to hold onto a vine. And wow, like I was just it's for me, I'm just like, no one does that. Like who is going to cross a stream? It didn't make any sense to me. I was just like, wow, that's incredible. And not surprisingly, he was the only one at pre-dawn. Not surprisingly, right? But it's inspiring when he talks about the fire, the Holy Spirit coming on him. And his prayer, he's like, that is a confession to the Lord. Even rain or snow will not keep me from coming to Predon. That is the no matter what mentality. I don't care. No matter what, I'm going to do this because it's the most important thing. And I don't even remember him talking about this before, but he prayed in 30 different languages. And then he started praying for each nation in that language. I'm guessing was praying in that language. Man, so I was just like, wow, that's incredible. That is extreme. And, you know, that's where our hearts and our minds have to change too. Like, he could have been swept away easily, right? And he wasn't that old at that time. It's 1965, which means he's like 19, 20 years old. So I was just like, that's incredible. I don't know how many 19, 20-year-olds would actually do that, right? Honestly, how many 19, 20-year-olds would actually do that? And the answer is probably not many. And he's like, he was so thankful that he didn't drown. And when I started thinking about drowning, I was thinking about these two incidents in my life too. One time, it was in California. And you've never, when living in Canada, you're not going out in the ocean swimming and stuff in the waves, but California we are. And one time I was going out pretty far. There's a huge wave struck me. It pushed me to the ground and dragged me. And I was like, you reach the point where you're starting to panic. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I was finally able to break free from the current, and I got out. And it was so crazy because, the ocean's so vast. No one saw it. Like, no one saw me. I got up and there's no one around. There's no lifeguard, anything else. I just finally got up, like almost died. Like, I almost died. And there's no one around who could see. Like, how could you? The ocean's so vast. The shore is so big. How could a lifeguard see you? So I was like, man, if I didn't get up, I would have been done. I just would have been done. Right? And, man, God really saved me in that situation to finally find that way to get out of that area. Like, I was struggling in that one. And then we go to the 29th story when he was like, this is also probably 1964, 1965, 19 years old, not in the army yet, and working with the second eldest brother. And then they saw tigers. I'm like, who does that? Who sits there like gonna take a stick and start like, beating down the tigers, like having that type of confidence at that age. So I was just like, wow, like who does that? Like first, like crossing the stream to go to Predon, I'm like, no. And he's like going to the tigers. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna be doing that. At 19, I would know better, right? But I was just like, wow, how can you do that? The 30th story was cool too. When he almost fell off the helicopter. And that railing, when there's a gap in the railing, I've seen that happen before, but not quite 500 meters in the air where you just come to your death. But that reminds me of a time when I was climbing up to the Eagle's Peak, right? And after that, it was eventually canceled. Like, you couldn't go up there anymore because there was a big accident up there. But I was climbing to the top, really difficult, and I slipped and I almost fell off the rock and down the mountain, right? And I would have died there too. But I was hanging on from one arm. Like, I slipped and I grabbed the rock and I was hanging, and someone had to help me up. It was intense. It was so intense for me that after the situation was done, I had no energy. And I'll tell you how much energy I didn't have. I had so less energy that people were carrying me down the mountain. I'm serious. People were carrying me down Hidden Sun. That's how much shock I had, how much energy I had during that time of adrenaline. So there were the story of like being in Germany with Pastor Joan. After 5 p.m., hunters go out to hunt deer. So someone died a week later, and they're like, they went out many times and they never were shot. God saved them multiple times there. The mentally ill one, with the mentally ill person, that one is scary. Honestly, that one is scary. After you help him, he's about to kill you. And his brother was the one that screamed at him so that he can avoid it. So that was pretty crazy too. Yeah. And one thing I like what Sunstein says, he's like, you know what? There's 12 more incidents I'm not even telling you about, but I'm writing a book. But he also told us, write a book. Write that book. And I was like, wow, that's that is so important for us. We need to write these books, or even put like a video, like an audio book or something like that, where we can tell people about these incidents, these stories that we were saved, right? And we have to realize from the past until now, there were so many times that we could have faced physical or spiritual death. And there are so many stories that I would freak out about. Because I was reminded of almost getting into a car accident one time. I first got my license, and I was like too busy looking at myself in the rear view mirror because I got new sunglasses while I'm driving. And I almost hit the car in front of me. I swerved, and then I almost hit a person, and then I was able to stop. It was crazy. In high school one time, I was almost hit by a bus because I was using my earphones, trying to cross the street, and my friend pulls me back. So that's kind of like the same thing with Sunstein too, when his brother screamed at him. Like, that guy literally grabbed my backpack and pulled me back so I wouldn't be hit by a bus there. So that was, oh my gosh. It just reminds me so much of these incidents that are happening in our lives. And the more and more we think about this, can you imagine that if it ended at that time? In most cases, like a lot of these stories that I know, I wouldn't even been in Providence. I couldn't. God saved me and brought me into this history. And that is something that I have to think to myself is, wow, so many times it could have ended. Even in Providence before the rapture. I might not have gotten the rapture, right? All these things I realize more and more. And I think it's something that we have to think about also. There are so many things that have happened so many times, and we just got to think about this and realize this more deeply. And when we do, this will be like, that's it. This is what is happening in my life, kind of thing. Okay? So I hope that all of you guys really enjoyed the Wednesday message. If you guys have any more stories that you were reminded of, go ahead and put it into the comment section. I would love to hear your other stories too. All right? And I'm sure other people would love to read them also. All right. So that is the word study for today. And I'm super grateful and thankful for the message once again. And of course, another amazing message this morning for the resurrection. So I hope that you guys are always looking into the message in the word each and every day. All right. So that brings us into the song of choice. And every Friday we have a musical Friday. And I'm choosing a song that really inspiring and moving. And just listen to the lyrics. It's from the Evan Hansen musical. And the song is called Only Us. So listen to it. It's really inspiring.
Sell me on reasons to want you. I don't need you to search for the proof that I should. You don't have to convince me. You don't have to be scared you're not enough. 'Cause what we've got going is good. I don't need more reminders of all that's been broken. I don't need you to fix what I'd rather forget. Clear the slate and start over. Try to quiet the noises in your head. We can't compete with all that. So what if it's us? What if it's us and only us? And what came before won't count anymore or matter. Can we try that? What if it's you? And what if it's me? And what if that's all that we needed to be? And the rest of the world falls away. What do you say?
I never thought there'd be someone like you who would want me. So I give you 10,000 reasons to not let me go. But if you really see me, if you like me for me and nothing else, well, that's all that I've wanted for longer than you could possibly know. So it can be us, it can be us, and only us. And what came before won't
only us, and only us. And what came before won't count anymore.
We can try that, you and me. That's all that we needed to be. And the rest of the world falls away. And the rest of the world falls away. The world falls away. The world falls away. And it's only us.
And there it is from the Evan Hansen musical, Only Us. Isn't that inspiring? What a great song. And I love the duet. I hope you guys really enjoyed that musical song of choice for today. And I hope you guys will really be able to just kind of like understand that there's so much music out there that is for the world. But for us being in this history, we can use it for the Lord more than anything else. Okay, so that brings us into the last segment, not only for today, but for the entire week. And of course, every Friday, we have this amazing segment from Thule Ashton over there in Australia. And she's going to do a testimony on today about being saved by death. So everyone, please welcome Thule Ashton with Let's Testify.
Hi, I'm Thule. I'm from Melbourne Church in Australia. I'm a career member, and around, I can't remember how long ago, but when I was learning how to drive, my grandpa came to pick me up in his car one morning, and we were driving down a country highway. I was going around 80 k's or 50 miles an hour down a country road, which was the maximum speed for a learner driver. And I just failed to see this sign that said to reduce to half the speed that I was going at. And so I just went pelting straight across a 4-lane roundabout, and I found myself on top of the roundabout, and I was going so fast I couldn't stop. I went straight across the other 4 lanes and straight into the continuation of the highway that I was on. So when I was over the other side, I was completely shocked, and I just pulled over and sat in the car for a few minutes without speaking, and I looked across at Grandpa, and he was just as startled as I was, and we were both so shocked that God saved us from being disabled or being killed or killing someone else or disabling someone else on the roundabout. And the amazing thing was that because Grandpa had picked me up so early in the morning, it was like 6:30 or 7 in the morning, there was no one on the roundabout. So if that had even been like half an hour or an hour later, that roundabout would have been really busy, and something horrible would have happened. So really, thank you to God. I'm so happy for this week where we can testify and remember these things. See you later.
And thank you so much, Thule, for that wonderful testimony of how God saved you from death. And it's so amazing. The more and more we hear these stories, that we can share them with each other and be able to, it reminds us of the times that we were saved also. So everyone, I hope you guys had an amazing and awesome week thinking about the stories of how God has given you grace by saving you. And I hope that you guys will have an amazing weekend more than anything else. Everyone, enjoy your weekend. Have an amazing time, especially in the Sunday edition this next week with Karen Smith. And we'll see you guys again on Monday on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.